welcome back to my channel. It is of course Chelsea if she designs things. And in today's video, I am going to be doing another design critique. Alright, so you've all been waiting for this for so long, so patiently. So let's just go ahead and jump into the video. Alright, so of course, like with the last video, I do have a small set of standards that I go by. We're going to talk about the purpose, the calls to action, visual impact, content, navigation, typography, and mobile ease of use. And I am going to also go over a few tips and tricks to making the designs better, because this is again a design critique. I can't talk today. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the first website. So here is the first site. This site is for, I assume, an author, and the author's name is Cynthia Manning. And so we are going to just go through this site together. So right off the bat, we can see we have this, I want to say this is the menu that has a drop menu right across the top. And then we see an image on this side, which I assume is the book cover. And then on the right hand side, we have some text information here, a title, bit of title text here, and additional text here. We have a next section, another section right underneath that has a quote from the author. I believe it's a quote. Yeah. Let's see. Let's make sure it's a quote. No, not a quote. Just information about the author. And then here we have more information. We have some icons located on the right hand side, a video, an image of the author. Then again, we also have right in this section here, we have another bit of text. And then we have located, I guess, at the footer. So this would typically be in the footer. We have a contact us, which is an animation. And then we have the social link animations here. Right in the footer, we have this information here. You can see who it's designed by, which is 4073 Media LLC. All right, so we've gone over and overviewed the first page. I'm going to just click on more books, which basically just takes us back to the first page. About, which takes us to her Instagram. Education partners, which I assume just opens up one of those other, I guess this is another site. Yeah, another site. So let's take a look at just this site then, since we know what all the buttons do thus far. First things first, going off of our design critique, the site's purpose. Is there a clear purpose to the website? Initially looking at it, the purpose of the site is stated right across here. It just says discovering the inspiring works of Miss Manning. So we have a purpose, so to speak. This is going to talk about a specific individual and their works, their body of work, whatever that work may be. Maybe it's art, maybe it's a book in this case, whatever it is. So we do have a purpose. Can the purpose be stated better? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important to remember this is a Google site. All right. Calls to action. Is it clear what you want the customer or client or person to do upon visiting your site? Right off the bat, no. It is missing calls to action. There are no actual call to actions that are listed on this page. We have an informational style site, so therefore there are no calls to actions that I can see. If you're trying to get someone to purchase a book, you want to make sure that you have calls to actions. Purchase the latest works. Okay, that's a call to action, and that seems to be missing from this site. And then another portion of the calls to action is, are you using words and images that resonate with the customer based on the customer persona? A lot of times when I review sites, there is no customer persona, and I can just tell that right off the bat. There's no target audience. People just build sites and they're like, it's for everybody. I mean, and it's not. definitely want to make sure that you are building a site with purpose and targeting specific demographics of people, because it ain't for everyone. So moving on down, if you're creating a site for an author who is selling bodies of work, and I'm going to assume, this is an assumption based on this line right across here, her earthly father was never around, but her heavenly father was with her every step of the way. The value of love. And so I'm going to assume that you are going to want to target a specific demographic, and that is going to be people of the Christian faith. And if it's not, maybe you have a different style that you want to go with in there, but you definitely want to create a site that is around or targeting people with that specific faith. So just keep that in mind whenever you're creating your sites. Make sure you have a customer or, user persona. Now, the visual impact. There are images. Are they impactful? Yes, they are. Are they impactful in a positive? This image right here is not of the highest quality, so I would probably make it smaller or use a different image. The T for the wall is cut off. That's not nitpicking. That's a fact. The T for the wall is that wall? For the will, excuse me, for the will is actually cut off. So you want to make sure you're using the appropriate images for the site. And then, do they have a purpose, and how do they relate to the site? I see a stack of books here. This is an animation. I will count this as a visual impact because it is an animation. And is it a positive impact? It can, if it was laid out properly, it can. But for now, I find that it's more distracting and used as a placeholder and doesn't really align with the cover. Like, the color palettes are clashing. So I would use different colors that are probably more muted. Looking at the author, looking at her style of clothing, her style of selected hairstyle, like just the book cover, I see a very, very, very different version for this site from the actual author. So I would make adjustments based on what it is that I can tell about the author. We have this video right here, which is very small, but she's wearing white, and it's kind of like a really cool outfit. Let's see if I can't make it any bigger just because the video is embedded in here, but I would change the way that her page is laid out based on just her appearance as well, like what she's wearing. And then let's see the content. You lack content on this site. Content is king if you plan to rank. One thing I haven't said is the fact that this is a Google site, yes. However, this is a full HTML embed, which means everything on here is not crawlable, unfortunately. So if I were to open this up in Open Graph, and which I'll show you, if I were to open this up in Open Graph, this site will show up as blank. None of the information will show up. The only image will probably be the fave icon because we don't have any crawlable images on the page because it's all written in HTML and CSS. So here it is, the site open in Open Graph. We can see that it's simply called Homepage. We only have, again, that fave icon to go off of and nothing else. And I've said this before, when you're creating a Google site specifically, if you want to have every other page be built, using HTML, great, that's totally on you. But I want you to consider how that's going to negatively impact your page. The embedded content is not crawlable, so I would change that. Now, just from an HTML standpoint, these are things that I would change, even if it was, even if I had written a code for it, like the markup language for it, this would be very different. And try to use like fonts and also adjust the colors and lessen the number of animations. Animations slow down your page load speed, and you have a lot of animations. I mean, animations, everybody wants to have them on their page. Everybody loves animations, but that doesn't make them necessary. All right, so The site is not necessarily easy to navigate. And then the font pairings I definitely would change. But is there anything wrong with the specific font pairings that you have? Not necessarily. It's just I would adjust it for the site. And then let's take a look to see if it is mobile friendly or responsive. And it is. So you do have that. It is mobile friendly and responsive. So yeah, that portion definitely will be helpful. But if you consider that other people might be using a desktop to view the site, you want to make sure that you are going to make sure it looks good even on a desktop view such as this. All right, so that is pretty much all the things that I would change specifically about the site, starting with, of course, building out this homepage inside of an actual Google site instead of just adding in HTML and CSS as a homepage, because again, it's not crawlable. All right, so the next site was actually submitted by Andrew, and Andrew submitted a site using a multi-layer subdomain. So he actually placed it as www dot and then farmbot dot and then blackfoxstudios.org. So suggestion, when you are creating your subdomain, just so you know, www dot is a subdomain. You never go and purchase www dot your web address. You always just purchase your actual domain name, whether that's blackfoxstudios.org or shedesignsthings.com. You are not purchasing that subdomain because it's inherently a part of it. So that's just a little tip. Now, if I were to remove the www dot and just start with Farmbot, it should actually open up, no problems, and it does. So the same critique that I used for the previous site, I am going to use for this one. I am going to adjust this critique. I'm going to adjust this critique just a little bit, just because of the site's purpose. It's important to understand whenever you're critiquing something that you have to understand the industry in which someone is working in. So what works for one may not work for other, but this again is a design critique. So I'm not going to critique based on the industry portion of it, but just for the overall design of the site. So here we are on the home page. We have this header section which says eco tech in the urban garden. We have a video right after, and then we have the Farmbot greenhouse project along with some text underneath. And then we have these three sections here which are not clickable, but they do show, you know, the Farmbot, the smart greenhouse, and the community celebration. Right after that, we have the eco technicians, local students who build, you know, place and maintain the smart garden, and then a bit of text here. And again, text, image, text, image, text, image in the layout. So tons of text being presented on this page, which is super helpful when you're talking about content being king. Scrolling on down, we do also have another section that lays out the impact, creating an economic and social impact that is sustainable. And right in here, we go into what that means. So a sustainable impact, growing the green tech workforce, online documentation, Farmbot site, app, and open source learning. And then just upgradable content and classes, growing food, a garden that grows food. And so moving on to the next section, we have our next Farmbot greenhouse projects of 2019. And then we have obviously some of those projects that they are working on in their area, along with those logos associated who they're backed by. Going down just a little bit further, we have creating food equity, by creating ecotech access. And then some information about that, another video, and then of course the year with a drop down box located just inside of here, and how the project got started, sponsors, and that's just pretty much the homepage layout. So again, focusing on this homepage, I am going to kind of zoom through this because it is a larger site to work with. So I'm going to switch over to the media and event pictures. So media event, media coverage, And then we have some, I guess, logos and images across the top, along with some links to said information. You need to be signed in for whatever this video is. So if you want this video to be public, make sure that if it's located in your drive, you have set it to public, just so you know. And then pictures of the event. I assume this is of a specific event. If that is the case, make sure that you say what the event was. I think it's to tie it into this one. Yeah, probably. And then down to the bottom, this is it. Now let's go to the next section here, which is supporting the ACE grant. And then again, whatever you had located here is only being shown to those individuals who have access to the file. And then some videos that you have shown right here. The next is the online learning. We have coming soon, under construction, and then, you know, this part of the site will cover, and this is going to obviously talk about what this part of your website will cover, and then access to tracked online learning, student online profiles, and we also have the outcomes and rewards. So we have some outcomes and rewards listed here. And let me just click on the next drop down, which is inventory management. So tons of pages in here. Inventory management, another video which is in a box such as this. And then let's go to the funding, which says there's a problem and, you know, to come back later at a different time. All right, so we have a pretty much a quasi little overview of your actual site. And I'll get to the design critique. There are many things that I would change in this site so that it will function better as far as the layout. Starting with this, let's do with the critique requirements. Is there a clear purpose to the website? So we can count this as a clear purpose, ecotech in the urban garden. Technically, that would be here. The Farmbot greenhouse project, this would be the site purpose, and we would go into the details right along here. I would try to switch these two, but let's find out. So let me just copy. I'm going to take this over to Open Graph, and I'm going to paste it here just to see what it comes up as. So we have Farmbot greenhouse project. We have that very first image right there. So when you share it, that is what comes up. The first 150 characters listed on the page is located right here. And it says this Farmbot greenhouse is a connection of the Farmbot and a smart greenhouse. The combination allows for it. So this I would change entirely. So change what you have written here so that it functions for the site, not go into details about the specific item that it is on the site. The purpose of the site is a little bit different than the item that you have on the site. So just keep that in mind. And now let's take a look back at the page here. Again, that first 150 characters is located right here, which is why this doesn't count and this is a video. So this is the very next section that is going to pull that information from in order to generate your social link previews that are located along this side. So is there a clear call to action? There is no call to action located on your homepage. So if you are trying to get funding for something, or if you are trying to, again, provide information, the layout for the site is going to be very different. But no matter what, you need to have a call to action. You need to tell people to do something. And that should be, first and foremost, tell people to do something. Take an action. And if it's to learn more, take an action that says learn more. So I would adjust this so that this video is in a different area. Maybe even bring it up to the header if you prefer. And just kind of change this entire layout in this section here so that it flows better. Like the feng shui of your site flows better. All right. So just keep that in mind. Need to have more clear call to actions. And then since, you know, this is, again, across the top, ecotech in the urban garden, specifically urban garden, You want to define what that means. If you mean like inner city or city gardening, then you want to kind of have some imagery that will impact that, or something to that effect. You just kind of want to make sure that you are being as, I want to say, transparent as possible when it comes to how you're writing out your page, so that it makes sense as to what the purpose is. Now, your visual impacts, you have tons of images to go off of that definitely have a visual impact. It's just a matter of making sure that that impact is, how to put it, impactful? No, just make sure the images are relatable. So we want to use the power of images to draw people to do something. So I would lay out the images a little bit differently, make them more of the forefront, use them as backgrounds. You do not have to use the colors only as backgrounds. Maybe use these kids that are setting up a piece of tech, because this is both how tech and food go hand in hand. We want to talk about eco tech. You definitely want to make sure that you're using these images to, pull on people's heartstrings or whatever, whatever your purpose is going to be. Now, again, I said content is king. You definitely have the content laid out here. It's just a matter of laying it out strategically so that it functions a little bit better on your homepage. The site navigation is pretty simple, but I would clean it up so that it actually flows into each section better. Your homepage, again, doesn't have anything that is clickable, and everything is reliant upon using the navigation bar. You also don't have a footer. I would definitely want to change this so that you have a footer. That's the one thing I'll say. Change it so that you have a footer. And then your font pairings are quite simple. There's no need to really change them unless you want to have a better impact. I would, adjust the fonts so that you have like a bolder font here when you want something to stand out more. Like to highlight words. Google has said so much as, yes, it does look at bolded words inside of your sites, any site, in order to check its relevancy. So, maybe bold words that are ecotech and bolded words like smart greenhouse, like whatever words you want to let the search engine know that this is important, this is what the site is about. Maybe try to have some of those words be in bold. Not too many, don't do it too often. I would say about 5 or 6 per page is enough. All right, now we have the mobile ease of use. I'm just gonna hit F12 just so you can see. And again, it's already designed in Google site, so it should be mobile friendly. The one thing I did notice is on some of the other pages where you do have like, what do you call those videos that are not mobile friendly? They, like this one I can't have access to, but the ones that are not mobile friendly, they create the double box, sometimes a triple box, and sometimes that's just me. Yeah, so they'll do like this. And this is quite common, but just keep that in mind whenever you're creating your site. There is a way of adding in what do you call these videos so that it does not do this. All right, so yeah, those pretty much the changes that I would make for your site. And obviously fix that 404. If you have a different page, make sure you update that link so that it works better. All right, so the very last site that we're going to go over is this site here, which is the, I assume short for Texas, so txeeg.net. And of course, going off of my design critique, we're going to start with just going over the site very briefly. The homepage design is very simple. There is nothing as far as a navigation bar along the top or the side. So we're using the pseudo navigation, which is basically just using the buttons in order to navigate between the site pages. Here we have the header section here, which has a phone number as well, located just underneath the image, and I assume this is the site logo. Going down, we have some text, which is inside of an image, another bit of text, which is located in an image, text again, locate it in an image, text again, locate it in an image. This is a GIF in the background and a video. And then we have a button here, which is a call to action. The footer, we just have the website, and that is pretty much it. So this home page is laid out quite simply. Going on to the About Us page, it is the same exact style. The services page, same style. And I'm going to scroll up. Contact page, which just has the icon. I assume that is a noto emoji. Something to that effect in order for you to click on. For patients, same style. And then scrolling back up for doctors and ordering and careers. So it seems the careers page is the only page with usable content. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Open Graph to see what we have for the social link preview. We again are going to look at what that's going to look like, because it's based on where you place information inside of your Google site. There is a hierarchy in the Google site, which is first, it's going to start with the very first thing that's on your site. So if you have a fave icon, if you first have a logo, it's going to use the logo. If you don't, it's going to use the fave icon. And then for your page title, it is usually going to be, or I should say the site title. The site title is going to be based on whatever you have across the top part. If you have nothing there, then it's going to default to whatever the page title is. This page title is called home, and therefore that's all we get here. This is why I always change my home page. My home page does not say home for any of the sites that I create moving forward. They all say something else, like welcome traveler, hello, blah, 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 or something that is SEO friendly. Then we have the description, which is just the phone number, and then the image, which the image is white, and that is that logo that's there, and therefore it does not show up for the background unless you're, I guess, assuming that the page is in dark mode, which, I mean, teach his own, that's fine. So now let's just go ahead and take a look at the site's purpose. Is there a clear purpose to this site? Well, I believe there is a clear purpose to the site. We know that it is an EEG site, although I would beg to differ on that just a little bit, because it says welcome to TX EEG, where we provide top quality EEG testing services. But there is a problem with the way this is all written. And I noticed doctors do this as well. They do not elaborate. They do not explain. They're just really bad at that, explaining what something is. For example, if I was looking for an EKG, I would know that I'm looking for something relating to the heart. But maybe because I misspelled it and I put EEG, I landed on this page. It's important to define what an EEG is. Nowhere on this page is what an EEG is. So you definitely want to make sure that you explain what it is that you're using in an acronym form. You have to do that for that people can understand, truly understand, what service it is that you provide. So I did have to Google it because I was first like, what is an EEG? And you would think someone who has had a number, way too many at this point, 2 MRIs at this point, that I would be familiar with this, and I am not. So just keep that in mind. All right, so going down this video here, I guess does have a little bit of information about what an EEG is, just sort of a video, what the setup looks like. And so I did the research to look up what an EEG is, and it is encephalography. That's the word. That's the word. I had to really like look it up. I was like, what is this? Which, you know, it's the brain. It's basically doing little brain waves or whatever. But I digress. That's we'll talk about that some other time. The purpose on the site is pretty much there. You do have a call to action here. I would just lay it out a little bit differently if you want this to be the main call to action to click here so that people can understand how AI is going to help them. But there's nothing on this page actually, so I'm not, or it just took a moment to show up. So I would keep that in mind. Try to limit the number of animations you have on the page. So moving down, we have that visual impact. Are the images on the site impactful? Considering you're using images to display text, I will say this is a big, huge do not, no, please don't do this. The reason being is screen readers, people who are visually impaired, cannot read the content that is on your page. That is obviously because you're using an image. So if you have someone who, say, is visually impaired, okay, and as someone with papilledemia, such as myself, which impairs my vision, if I were to land on your page and I needed to use a screen reader in order to understand certain parts of the page, the screen reader would just say, this is an image. That's why we have alt text. However, you're putting important information in images in places where it should be text. I highly discourage this practice. Not only do I discourage it, I recommend changing it immediately. There are cases in which there are some less than positive lawyers out there who look for sites like this and they try their best and they'll sue you and they will win. I wish I was making it up, but I know of places where they actually do. So please, 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 for the sake of your business or your client's business, if you're creating a site for business, do not place important information in images. Images are used as supplemental to text. They should just be, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Does not necessarily mean a picture is the 1,000 words. Okay, there's a difference. Now, going on, content is king. Because you're using images, you lack content. So your page is gonna basically say you only have a couple words. And that's why it's important to understand web development, even if it's just like quasi knowledge of something, the smallest bit of information. Get away from using images for text. That's the most important thing. Just use text. You should have images, but lessen the amount. Navigation. You're using when I started off, I started using the pseudo buttons. Pseudo navigation does work because it directs people to do things very strategically, very specifically. This is why I kept the teacher exactly as it is, and I haven't made any changes to the teacher. But if, say for example, you're like, I don't have a workspace account and I want to hide the little magnifying glass. The magnifying glass allows people to search your site, to be able to find information on your site much faster. So I do recommend keeping it if you want people to be able to search your site faster. All right, typography. Because you're using images, you lack typography, so this is something I can't really go off of on your site. And then mobile ease of use. Is your site mobile friendly? Let's take a look. So because you're using images, they do resize, but they are quite small. And so someone would have to zoom in quite close to be able to see the text inside of these boxes here. So I highly recommend making changes to this section here. I'm just going to look at the other pages that you have. The team, the testimonials, do something about that. The services page, same thing, get rid of the images. The contact us page lacks content and actual words on the page. Add something. This is the best way to contact us. You can reach us here. We're located at blah, blah, blah. It's filler text, but it helps your site rank better. When you're talking about for patients, we have patient information. And here I do see you actually use the word here. I would recommend adding this on the main page as well. This is like, consider a web page like writing an essay when you're on the home page, okay? say you're in college and you're writing a dissertation, you're introducing stuff on that homepage. You're not just going straight into it 30 pages later. So make sure that you're also, putting a little bit of a summary on that homepage, which is where I don't see this information. And then routine. Again, we have the information. Please, no hair braids. So I will say this, if hair braiding is an issue, because it is Texas, which I assume braids will be an issue in Texas, say it better culturally. As a woman of color, say it better culturally. You have it twice. It comes up as a negative. It reads as a negative. And it's being perceived as a negative. Again, as a woman of color, I see this in the way you're presenting the information as a negative, only because of how it's being presented. And the reason I say this is, you can say it is, while we appreciate and love everybody's uniqueness in their hair care, in their personal care for their hairstyles, it is important to understand that when you are getting an EEG, that you are to not have in braids, or any, intricate patterns, whatever the case may be. That's all you have to say. Keep it as an FAQ, but don't make a big deal out of it. And the page here being in multiple sections laid out in such a way, it looks like duplicated. Yeah, watch the duplication. That's what I would say, because it reads like a negative. All right, going on for doctors. So see here you have a book a call, in person or meeting video. This information here can also be on the contact page. The contact page should have all ways of contacting you. And that should be whether it's a doctor, a patient, or another professional. All versions in which someone should be able to reach you based on what it is they're looking for should be located on the contact page. Right? The contact page is that directory of where people go to reach out to you at. And careers, same bit of information. We can have this here, a willingness to work. I would try to bold the requirements, make them in a list format, make it a little bit easier to read, because right now it just all seems like one long piece of text. And then ordering, yeah, I would add something here. All right, so now I want to share with you an example of what I would change on the homepage. Because I found this homepage to be interesting, but I was like, I'm not just gonna leave it as interesting. I just want to show exactly what I would do to make this different. So here is the page that I created. This is what I would do. I would try to stick with a little bit of the status quo for the industry you're working in. Trying to be too creative in the medical field is usually, I'm gonna say honestly, not a good idea. People look at medically related things as something to be reliable. And you want it to present as an authority. And how do we present authority? Well, we make the site look clean. We use specific colors that are associated with the particular industry in which you're working in. Now, I did notice the colors that you're using on your site, this particular teal green color. So that is the color that I have selected for the buttons on this site. Also change the header, change the image to something a little bit more appropriate to give, again, a clear understanding as to what it is that you do. I changed the title, Accurate EEG Testing Services for Reliable Results in Texas. Again, you are in Texas. We have the state. It looks great, but it just says txeeg.net. Someone who is not familiar with the state of Texas or even the US might not know what you're talking about. So definitely elaborate. Now, I didn't say the full word here because I wrote it right here. We provide advanced and comprehensive electroencephalography and in parentheses, EEG testing services to help diagnose and treat neurological disorders. Our expert team uses state-of-the-art equipment and techniques to ensure reliable results. There's a button that says Learn More. That's it. Not too much. We don't want to go into too much details at this point. Then going down, that's when you have the who we are. You go into a little bit more detail, who we are, what we do. If you're a leading provider in the services, how we diagnose. If you do diagnose, you might just do testing, so just keep that in mind. And just kind of how your team operates. And then what you do best. All sites follow a formula, so we want to talk about what you do best. We provide that advanced and comprehensive blah, blah, blah. It's the same bit up here, but you can change the verbiage. I just decided to copy and paste at that point. And then I did go throughout your page and look for specific information about what you do. So the comprehensive EEG testing, and then I am using Noto emojis to display this information here. This is just a regular text emoji. Nothing special. Just to keep it simple. We offer a range of EEG testing services to help diagnose blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Same with the long-term video EEG monitoring and our expert team of neurologists, expert interpretation, which I found on your site as well, that you offer an interpretation of these results. So this is something you want to highlight. You highlight in a section here. And then you also want to have some social proof somewhere on the page, but I want to keep this part short just to show you how you want to lay out your page so that it makes sense, especially in the medical field. This makes you look more, how do you put it? Authoritative. It's cleaner. Does it have to be exactly like this? No, absolutely not. Would I recommend doing something like this? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Would I hire these people here? Yes. Would I go with this service here? If I got a referral for this service here and it was great, yes. But if I had no referrals to go off of and I had stumbled upon this page, no. The answer would be no. You have to consider the audience in which you're working with. So that's why I said the answer would be no. So consider those things whenever you're designing your site. And here's just another example of how you can lay out, again, that section there if you wanted to keep it simple. With that AI that you have that's leading, find out how AI can help with electroencephalography. It's a long word, man. That's a mouthful. And then the Learn More button. So that is just the header here. So yeah. All right. So I do hope that these tips and tricks and also these reviews were really helpful in helping you all design your sites better. Again, content is king. Don't put images in place of text. It's not appropriate to do. And yeah, if you have any questions or if something wasn't clear, just please leave a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to assist you. And of course, thanks again so much for watching, and laters.